Okay, here's the another short comic review. I don't think I'll ever get more than, honestly, more than this. I think the most I ever get is, of course, the end of the month image books, all the image books I've read this month, and that's only because I own them all. For the end of the month image books, they have to be ones that are my PC. Now, yes, I can. Like for Paper Girls, the compendium, I decided, hey, I'm gonna pick up the oversized hardcovers in the library. They have all three of them. They're in stock, and they're might as well. And I did that for Paper Girls. What I did was I returned as I finished each one. I would review it if it's Wednesday, I finished it on Wednesday and I had it for Wednesday or before Wednesday, I would review it. I don't believe I did that for book 3, but I return it after. So I would not keep all 3 books the entire month. As I finished them, I returned them as soon as I possibly could, because I did feel bad for check them all out at the same time. To be fair, I would have done the compendium if, which is kind of silly, but I would have done the compendium if only to prove that Image Comics compendiums can in fact, like they're fine. Like, the way that they're made, the way the binding is, you're not gonna break it within one viewing, one read through, and I would have proved that doubly so, triply so, if anything, because I've read the compendium before, so I've actually read it in pretty much every format except the digest size. The new ones are coming out with, and that's because they haven't finished it yet. And of course, in single issue form, I've not done that. So that is about the only time you're gonna get a comic review, where it's more than like 6 books. Because that, like last month, I didn't even count. I should have counted. It was like, I think it was like 16 plus, maybe even 20. It's crazy. Actually, it was 19. 19 series. Some that were 3 issues, 3 volumes or more. But anyways, let's get right into it. Strange Academy by Scotty Young. This is volume 1. The only reason why I decided to read this ahead of time is that it is a digest-sized book, so it is smaller than your average trade paperback / floppy size. I don't understand why they did this. Like, I get it. Oh, this is more targeted towards kids, so they want to have it because kids have smaller hands. But like yeah, but they're gonna get what if they just buy single issues? What if they're those kinds of comic book purchasers, or their parents are like that because they're like, well, it's $3.99 per. You only have $10 to spend, and the kid can buy, as shitty as it is, a thing, it can buy 2 comics in the candy bar, because that is how. It's crazy. Like, we have a floppy here, handy. Let's throw it all in the closet. But floppies are like 23 pages, and what they're charging $4 to $5 for them. $5 if you want to get like the cardstock variant, is how DC used to do it, and that's just highway robbery in my opinion. And honestly, you can only do 2 of the cardstock variants, and that's it. Can't even get a candy bar. But anyways, my point is that the single issues are regular format. Maybe it's because it's a bigger book, but even then, the trades aren't that. I don't know. I just found it really weird, and I don't mind it. I don't mind reading it in a smaller size. I didn't really notice the difference that much. And this is my second time. Guys, all the time. This is my second time reading the series, and I liked it as much as I want to say as I did the first time. It's enjoyable enough. It's never going to be groundbreaking. It's never going to be like that next best thing. It's just a really solid book, a really solid read that it's not just good for kids. Like, it's not just, oh, well, it's really good for kids, but adults aren't going to like it. No, adults can find it in just as much enjoyment as a kid can. And I do like some recurring characters. I'm not going to say who the recurring characters are. One of them is pretty obvious. It's returning characters, not recurring. Returning characters, not recurring. Some of the returning characters. One of them I had kind of forgotten about, but then when I saw them appear, I was like, oh yeah, that's right too. That character is in this book too. But all enjoyable. I'm not too well versed in Doctor Strange, so I can't even say this is the best run of Doctor Strange, but from what I've read, I liked this one. I like the death of Doctor Strange by Jed MacKay, even if it was another kind of cash grabby kind of book. And I read Jason Aaron's run on Doctor Strange every now and then. It's been a while actually, but even Jason Aaron's run, I was like, yeah, that was a solid enough book, but it was never really wowed by it. This is about the same as Jason Aaron's run, so 8 out of 10. The best compliment I can give this, the best way I can really get my thoughts out on this book is that I could totally see this being the next Harry Potter, where as a kid, my mother would read aloud Harry Potter to us kids before bedtime. Now we could read, but it was just she wanted to read it aloud to us, and it's one of my favorite memories as a child. So I could totally see that being the same exact case for today's youth. And honestly, that we need to bring that back. Like I feel like today most parents just throw them the iPad and say, "Go watch something on Netflix," or "Go watch something on YouTube Kids," and it's fucking sad. Now, some parents I understand not doing. It does go by parent by parent. Some of them I get it. They're gonna do TV before bedtime, and that's what I did most nights as a kid. I want to say, and that's understandable. Kids are gonna want to watch their newest episode of SpongeBob or whatever TV show is popular with kids nowadays. Power Rangers, is that still around? So because they're saying it was like you used to have this like cloud thing. It was like Cloud Brain, and you would, if you wrote a document, you would put in all the words you used, and then they rank it by the highest. If I did that, if I had an actual script and I put the and ums in there, or I did a transcript, that would be the most used word. But anyways, as I was saying, is Power Rangers still a thing? So, but it's still, I think it should bring this back. I think it should be like a once a week thing. Once a week, mom reads aloud to the kids, or once a week, dad reads aloud to the kids. And I could totally see this being one of those Harry Potter picks where you read aloud to the kids, and it's like one of their best pastimes, even if they don't remember exactly what happened in the book in retrospect. It's a thought that counted. It was the experience that made it. And then they later on in life, like 10 years from now, they see this at a comic shop where they come out with the omnibus or whatever, which I think they already have an omnibus out of it. But they see the omnibus at the comic book shop, and they pick it up to relive childhood memories. Like, I could totally see that being this book. And it has the makings to be this book with the solid writing alone. I think it's the perfect way to capitalize, to cap that off. This one I might keep because I want to do my what I'll be reading for the rest of the month video, and this right here, Redlands, I kind of want to show the library copy and then my copy. So yeah, I did this. I know it's kind of silly to do it. It's not like it's a different format or anything. But really damn solid. Like what I like best in indie comics all rolled into one, pretty much. Save for a couple things. I do think not every indie book do I want it to have this story structure. I could totally see this being an A24 movie. It's kind of weird to say because it's kind of a broad statement, but if you've watched A24 movies, especially what they come up with, especially their horror movies and everything, things like other genres that are similar to horror, other movies that are similar to this, you can kind of tell what I'm getting at. Like Hereditary, the director, which I have the DVD right here, and it's probably not going to show it. It's probably going to see this Blu-ray, right? I can't see it, right? I want to say Ari Aster, right? I'm going to say that is the case. But the director of Hereditary could really make a damn good adaptation of this graphic novel series. And because this is already has the makings of being a really damn solid graphic novel, he doesn't have to do much other than, of course, putting his flavor, his spin to it, but not changing much of the script. I'm kind of what I'm trying to say. But this could totally see it being an A24 movie, and that's the way I'll describe it, and not really elaborate on that because I don't think I need to, because I think you guys get what I'm saying. For those of you who don't know A24 as a name, they did Hereditary, they did Midsommar, they did Ex Machina, I believe, Everything Everywhere All at Once. They're that kind of movie studio, and they always, even their less good movies like Friendship, I still walk out saying that's much better than half the movies that we get today, or if it was made by a big name studio. Now, I'm not one of those people that says that everything that's on A24 is awful, obviously, but it also, it's still what I say. But all in all, really damn good, really damn solid. Because I'm gonna read this again at the end of the month, we'll move on. And I'll just give my overall score, and it's a 9 out of 10. Batman Off-World. Now, one thing that I did not mention in my review on Instagram, so I just reviewed this as of this recording tonight on Instagram. I did not mention how I felt this was like the equivalent of your boy Zach saying that Silver Surfer should never appear as a crossover with Spider-Man because Spider-Man should not be going to space, so Spider-Man should always be a street-level hero. That is kind of how I feel about Batman Off-World. It was about halfway through that I was like, yeah, that's kind of true about Batman too. Why is he in space? And yeah, they'll do Justice League. They'll have him in space. So that's, and then I kind of remembered that. And I was like, okay, yeah, like Justice League last ride, I didn't bat an eye. So why am I batting an eye here? And I think a lot of it is because it's all in space pretty much, and it's just aliens. But even then, like, I don't know. Maybe it's always because he's year 2 Batman, so it shouldn't be that long ago that I was thinking about that too. But that isn't as big a gripe. It's not the biggest gripe I have with this comic by a long shot. And even then, that's pretty much squandered as non-existent. What is a pretty big complaint that I have about this book, and is definitely significant enough to not be non-existent in the slightest, is that this has excessive dialogue. It just feels like this need to have at least like 25% of the dialogue for this to not for the pacing to have not been overall squandered. And I hate to say the word squander because that makes it sound like it's awful pacing, and it kind of does. It doesn't hurt the overall narrative. This isn't like one of those books where I was bored to tears, but I wasn't ever invested. I was invested enough to want to know how it ended and to keep reading, but yeah, I felt every single page of this book. It's one of those rare modern day comics where I felt every single page of this book, and that never happens for me reading modern comics. Hell, even comics from the 90s, sometimes it's not the case at all. But this is just it's excessive dialogue, and it's modern day Jason Aaron. It's kind of got that, I don't want to say stink to it, but aroma to it, like modern day Jason Aaron. If you know what I mean by that, it's just kind of like zombie Simpsons feel to it, where it's kind of going through motions. Not as bad as zombie Simpsons can get to, but just that, like, going through the motions, kind of like, again, zombie Simpsons. So it kind of has that feel to it. I think it's a perfect way to describe it, but not as egregious. This is a solid 6 out of 10. It's enjoyable enough. If you're lucky enough, like me, and you saw this at your local library, definitely pick it up. If it's on sale, pick it up. If the individual issues are $1 a piece, definitely pick it up. It's only 6 issues. Now for the other Batman book, and this one was extremely disappointing. Ironically enough, so Batman Off-World, I had heard about the series when it was coming out, and was so eager to read. I was like, okay, can't wait for the library to get it, and I forgot about it. So maybe that's why I wasn't so disappointed. So I'm surprised I was not disappointed with this one. Like, super disappointed. I'm like, oh my god, I was so excited. And even when I put it in, I was like, oh my god, Batman Off-World, I forgot about that. Yay, I get to finally read it, and it's gonna go. And I came in pretty quickly, and I was so excited. I was like, let's go, and, all that. And then I read it, and I was like, I read it earlier than I was supposed to, because I was supposed to go in a certain order for the library books this time around, because of how much I ordered and how much I wanted to read my PC personal collection too. So it's kind of like one of those things. But this one I read early, I was like, I want to read up Batman Off-World. Let's do that now. And then I was kind of disappointed. It's slightly, like a very slim, like skin of its teeth disappointment. But overall, like I said, solid 6 out of 10. It's good enough. But Batman Battle for the Cowl is one of the biggest disappointments of the year. Now, that's not, of course, that's not, when I say of the year, obviously Batman Batman Battle for the Cowl did not come out this year. But I read it this year. Also, product placement. But I read it this year. So obviously, when I say it's the biggest disappointment of the year. Because, and this wasn't one that, like, I can say very confidently, oh my god, all these comic book YouTubers are like, this is the best ever, and it's an unpopular opinion. Like, I can't even, I could not tell you confidently, off the top of my head, that someone like Omar from Near My Condition, or Sal from Comic Pop, or your boy Zach, really love this book, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is the best book ever." I can't even say like confidently that even Omar talked about Battle for the Cowl. I know one did, but even then, was it positive or negative? I can't even say in that regard. But I had always remembered the series. I was like always like, yeah, I do want to check out Battle for the Cowl. And what's kind of funny is that I was disappointed because I thought I'd get the complete collection. I didn't. Rather, I got these two trades. And I hate to be this rude about it and this cruel about it, but this was so disappointing and kind of boring to the point where I'm not reading this. I'm returning this. That's how disappointing that was. I'm like, I don't want to read any more of this. When Fabian Nicieza writes a Batman story that is just okay at best, you know you've done something wrong. 4 out of 10. 1 Month to Live. This one, I don't believe I showed... I did. But I believe I mentioned how long this had been. A long, long time since I first read this book. It's only my second time reading this series, and I read this one way back in 2022. It just escaped me completely. I don't know. But I'm glad it re-entered my mind. I'm glad that they finally got this one for me, because there's some computer bullshit with it. I'm going to call it computer bullshit because it's obviously not the fault of anyone else but the computer, because they have 2 copies of this book, and one is not available, and one was, and it was weird. I had to put this book in twice. 2 different 1 Month to Lives. One was spelled like this, and then one was spelled like this. See the spine right there? Really weird. Yes, I know. That's how it was. And then I think it was this one I found when I finally got that. Not this one. This one, I mean. But Rick Remender did not write every issue. It's one thing I found out the hard way. There's a different writer for each issue, except for 1 and 5, which are the same. Rick Remender. But this is good. With a bunch of different writers, or with 4 different writers, you would expect this one to be very disappointing, and one writer writes it really well, and the other writer writes it absolutely terribly, but it's really good. You can tell that each writer is on, like, you can tell when it's not Rick Remender, but not to an egregious degree whatsoever. This is almost an underrated gem. This is one I totally expect to find half off, hardcover, at my local comic shop, and I pick it up, and I read it, and I'd be like, that was good. I'm glad I didn't pay full price. Now, because this is $20, only $20, and it's a hardcover. Yeah, it's standard size, but it's still $20 hardcover. I do hesitate to say that I would be disappointed, because this is really solid. But it doesn't have that signature Rick Remender flavor to it, feel to it. But it is still very much enjoyable. If this came out today, this would be one of those comics that your boy Zach talks about. He says that comics are good nowadays. And that would be a great example, too. A lot of it comes from the emotions, like very, very well-earned emotions. One of the biggest gripes I have with this book did not hurt the book at all overall, but definitely one thing I'm always going to remember going forward is that the daughter character is absolutely irritating. I get how they're writing her, but that is not borderline how you don't do that. How you don't write annoying characters. But other than that, really solid stuff. And it was like reading for the first time, too. So I remembered very little from this series. 8 out of 10 is a must read. Not a must read, go out and read it now, but a must read. Modest must read. The Human Target, Volume 1. Now this comes from Tom King, who I have very mixed feelings about. Tom King, I did not like his Strange Adventures and his Mr. Miracle. Had I read them at the same time, I'm confident in saying this. Had I read Strange Adventures and Mr. Miracle at the same time, I would not be able to differentiate the two. Now, if I read Strange Adventures first and then I read Mr. Miracle, and not at the same time, like I read one first and then the other, even then I still say I feel the same way as if I read them together. I read one after the other for the first time ever, obviously. would I still not be able to differentiate the two? Like, in story structure, at least. Like, I'd be like, yeah, Mr. Miracle was like, no, it's actually Strange Adventures they did. I'd be constantly getting myself mixed up. Rorschach, I actually really liked. And I was like, there's a reason for why to bring back Rorschach, kind of. No, actually, there was. There was a point. The more I think about it, yes, there was a reason to bring back Rorschach. At the very least, the way that Tom King brings Rorschach back. And I did not consider it to be a assassination of Watchmen. But Tom King also has a type, and I guess I just don't like his writing style because I've never been wowed by any of his work. Except the closest I've come to is Vision, and that was a long time ago. That's what put me on, that's what put his name on the map for me, was his Vision series. But it's been so long since I've read that series, and yes, I do, and I keep saying this too, but I do need to get back on that series. I'm just going to get the library at this point. But anyway, but Rorschach I really liked. Heroes in Crisis I did not hate as much as everyone else did. I kind of thought it was like enjoyable. Like it had really nice pacing to it. So and impeccable, insanely good artwork. So that's what drew me to it, and I kind of reread it more than I should. I was saying that his Batman run I actually do like, but I don't like his characterization of Batman. I don't think we should have suicidal Batman. I know emo Batman, that makes sense, but suicidal is a bit too far. There is a difference, by the way. I like to add, there is a difference, I would like to add, between suicidal and emo, in my opinion, at least. From what I've experienced in life, at least. I think that's it, right? That I read of Tom King. Why is this thing it should be more? I don't know. But all that is to say, Human Target is another book that I found to be just alright. At 6 out of 10, it's okay. If you really like Tom King, you'll really like this book. If you are like me, you're mixed, you'll have mixed feelings about it, and if you hate him, hate his writing, this will not sway you to liking his work at all. I do like the character, I do like Fire and his relationship with Ice. I do like the artwork, obviously, is really good. I like how they always give it that indie comics feel, almost. And I did like the whole thing, Kyle Rayner. Now, Kyle Rayner, no, sorry, not Kyle Rayner, Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is not a character I know a whole lot about, so is it a character assassination? I don't know. But I like how ruthless he was, and how they didn't really pull back any punches with his characterization. At least and again, this is Black Label DC. In Black Label DC either. I am always irritated by this, though. This is a small gripe that does not affect my overall score. Why are we censoring the F words and the S words? It's DC Black Label. It's 17 and up. I know it's a preference to Tom King's, but why? Moving on. Last one. No, I'm sorry. No, yes, the last one. I'm sorry. I was on the wrong pile. Is Bad Girls by Alex Acampi. When I first read this one, I knew I needed to give this a second shot. I knew it. When I finished it, I was like, yeah, this isn't... Nope. But I reread it, and it is really solid. Now, again, I am going to explain that Alex Acampi is one of the final bosses when it comes to separating the art from the artist. Because she's an awful human being. Straight up killed somebody. Now, not directly, it was indirect murder, but she should have gone to jail for what she did. She bullied someone to committing suicide over bullshit. I will always mention that when I'm at Episcourt that she bullied the suicide, in case you didn't know. Some people that aren't comic fans knew about it. I was surprised. But because of that reason, because of what she did, I will always, whenever I'm talking about Alex Acampi or reviewing an Alex Acampi comic book, I will always mention that. I will never not mention it. I will always, 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 always mention it. Because I think it's important to always mention that. Even 10 years from now, I will always mention it. Moving on from that and going into the actual book itself, like a lot of Alex Acampi's work, actually everything I've read by Alex Acampi, save for I think it was one series I don't like that it was written by her. It's enjoyable enough. It keeps my interest throughout, and that's the least I ask for in comics, just to keep my interest. And it did this flawlessly, absolutely flawlessly. And had I read this all in one sitting, I'd have a lot more to gripe about. But I read this by chapter because I do this right here. Look at the time. It's like 8 o'clock p.m. and it's 10. And it's nice. Like, oh, it's cool. Chapters. And I did read this all in one day, but it was by chapters. I read one about Bad Girls and then one of the other book I was on, and so on and so forth. Every other being Bad Girls. I'm glad I did that because that really made it so. That really made a difference for me. But that, as I say, and then I'd say a 6 out of 10. Now, so Batman, I should give a 5.5 technically, because I like this one more than I did no, not even that. Like, pacing was better than this than it was than Batman Off-World because of the way that this is written. But no, both 6 out of 10 for this and Batman. Because Batman, other than that big gripe, there's no real other problems with Batman Off-World other than the few things I mentioned. So Bad Girls, yeah, 6 out of 10 like a Batman Off-World. Same score. It makes sense when you think about it. For more than 2 seconds. But enjoyable enough. Definitely see if your library has a copy. That's what I would suggest. But that, as I say, is that. This was like, what, 9? Comic service reviewing, technically 8. If you don't count. So I wasn't counting Batman. That would count. Yeah, thank you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So technically it was 7. Sorry, 6. I counted Batman off. I counted Batman Companion, didn't I? I don't know. But that, anything is that. I'm going to end this video rather than sit through that and then waste time for any video. 26 minutes, wow.